Hello Dino Peeps! We are back after a few weeks and the devs had some time to look into the bugs and errors in Ark Survival Evolved Aquatica. Well, also Ark Survival Evolved, the original version of Ark. Now, after months since my last Aquatica video, how's it looking? Well, sure, not so good. As of today, many assets that are required on different maps in the game are still missing. Some of them are sounds, dino textures or skins. If you have not kept track with the news, I can give you the whole story summarized so you don't have to watch all my previous videos on it. Studio Wildcard, the original developers, had sunset Ark Survival Evolved exactly 2 years ago in 2023. The reason was the switch to a new version of Unreal Engine, as the old game had reached the boundaries of what was possible in Unreal Engine 4. This is important, by the way, so I will come back to that later. Ark Survival Ascended, the Unreal Engine 5 version, released just a few weeks later and had a rough start, as it was one of the first games in Unreal Engine 5, which was at this point still a very experimental development version. It suffered from performance issues and still does to a degree. Apart from critical bug fixes, ASE was not getting supported anymore and official servers were discontinued. In April, Snail Games announced to the shareholders a continuation of the Ark Survival Evolved branch, but not to the players, which is very interesting. The players found out by a tweet from Studio Wildcard that distanced themselves from all the work done on ASE going forward and sent people to Snail Games directly for info and support. And since that tweet was published before Aquatica was even announced, the player base was confused if that was an accidental leak, but it was in reality a very smartly timed message to set the baseline of where they were standing. Going forward, a fully AI-generated trailer video for Aquatica was shown at the Game Developer Conference, and Aquatica got the worst press it could have gotten. Even though not all gaming press understood that it wasn't Wildcard who was responsible, most players understood. In summer, only a few months after the developers for Studio Sirens, which is a team within Snail Games, were hired, and barely enough time to get familiar with the Ark dev kit and the inherited tech debt, which is the collection of quick and easy solutions that are rather workarounds and that might break things in unpredicted ways in the future, like a very unstable Jenga tower. They had to get used to this, and Aquatica got released and broke the game fully. And here's where I'm saying Ark Survival Evolved already reached the maximum what you can do with the engine, and it was not told to the Studio Sirens dev that this was the case. Also, all of the tech debt that was in the game already, they just applied the things they might have learned with a newer version of Unreal Engine, or things they have learned in games that were not as fully packed as Ark was, and of course the game broke completely. A quick fix was applied that offered a beta branch with a game from before the update. And now we're almost in October, and while some parts of the game are fixed, it is nowhere in the state the game was previously. Deleting or renaming existing assets in the game and breaking the game structure and adding a lot more to the game code that the game might even be able to handle, and the announcement to take over mods was one way to anger the community and the modding community, or let's say what was left of it. Mainly focusing on fixing their own DLC over the main game and attacking content creators, the track record for Aquatica was not the best. Studio Sirens only has until the end of the year to fix the game, as this is their announced time frame. They planned on supporting the game. The only dev that was actively communicating with the content creators and the community left Studio Sirens shortly after my last video, and the support in the Discord is now mainly done by players who help as volunteers, but not by devs. The posts in the Discord that gain the most traction are the ones explaining how to re-roll your game, partially with grey area software to make the game at least playable again. The community feels absolutely helpless. The player base has shrunk from 45k at peak to 28k, and from 35k at its lowest number to below 10k. And on the long-term graph, this looks like this. And if I'm completely honest, I cannot blame anyone for leaving the game right now. The biggest drop happened when the changes to the main game file started causing loading times from up to 20 minutes. Some of you have played Ark for many years remember those loading times from the total conversions. Whatever bug fix they have applied to the main game file, it completely broke it. 20 minutes loading time for weeks now shouldn't be a normal thing. GeForce Now players are still locked out from playing the pre-Aquatica servers, and so are now Epic Game players too, who were forcefully updated a few weeks ago despite the previous communication stating that only Steam players would get the update. Make it make sense. To me, it is really heartbreaking to see that the game that I played almost 13,000 hours and the game that I made over 800 videos on is simply taken apart. The community we built on my 2 Ark channels has been ripped into all directions. And while I didn't play ASE myself anymore since ASA came out, mainly because I couldn't install 2 of these giant games, I know a lot of you were still playing ASE, and I still answered questions and gave support for ASE. As an Ark content creator, I can tell you this development is absolutely terrifying, because building content and a community based on one single franchise has been a risk I was willing to take. Because I had the trust that the developers would keep the game running and support it for many more years to come. And I think every single Ark creator can now look at the numbers and can tell you that we're living the consequences of a lot of mismanaged decisions. And this isn't about money. It is about the many hours of work we put into our videos for a game that is losing its players, which are the same players who loved our videos. And because I don't blame anyone for unfollowing creators who only talk about the game they don't play anymore. The hopeful optimist in me has gone silent in the past few weeks as I followed the discussions and plans on the Aquatica Discord. Talking to other Ark creators, they feel just as defeated as I do. Defeated, disappointed, and some even angry. Studio Wildcard left ASE in a somewhat playable state. The player numbers before Aquatica proved this, and it could have been so great if it was kept like that. Now the DLC that was disguised as a gift for the Ark 10's birthday turned out to be what ended it. And I don't want to be a doomer here. I really don't, but let's be honest, people who played Ark now for so many years have come to terms that the game is not working anymore. Servers close, players leave, and thinking that they will quickly return after the game works again, or rather if the game works again, is wishful thinking. Ark was one of the genre pioneers, and many games followed after and took Ark's success formula and improved it. And while Ark is still unique in its depth, not a lot of players actually play to that depth and are happy with a similar but less complicated survival game. And there are a few. Winning players back would need a big setup PR campaign, and ASE is discontinued, so there won't be any of that. And players being unhappy with ASE also had another effect. Almost at the same time, the numbers for ASA dropped significantly. The whole franchise is suffering from the bad decisions to make a DLC with a team that had no experience with the Ark infrastructure. So this 10-year gift to the community was a Trojan horse, which destructive effect hit the whole franchise and community, and not simply the Ark Evolved player base. So with a game in its state and its future so uncertain, it forces me to ask, what does this mean for my channels? Well, I have started a poll in the community post because I don't want to make any decisions without you. You can check the poll and vote for it. I will not take this as a hard decision-making tool, but rather see in which direction you're swaying and what your opinion is, especially because I also have the same poll on my other channel, since this would be a direction change that affects both channels. So I don't want anyone to feel overlooked or offended by me eventually extending the content I make on other games or not. But more than anything, I really want to hear from you. Please let me know in the comments, how are you feeling about all of this? What are your future plans as an Ark player? Do you still play, or have you moved on? Or are you one of those players who really don't care much about anything around Ark and you just play with your friends? Let me know in the comments, and thank you for watching.